Hello, we are back here for My Louisiana Sky, Chapter 4. This is a rather long chapter, so we're going to split this into two sections to make sure it fits onto YouTube here. We're going to go ahead and get started. Remember, last chapter, Tiger was in the baseball match with Jesse Wade. Jesse pitched his best fastball, and she knocked that ball straight over the fence into the chicken yard, and then she totally forgot to shut the gate. Well, obviously Tiger has to pay for her actions here in Chapter 4, so she's going to do a little work to pay back for the trouble that she caused there. Let's go ahead and read Chapter 4 of My Louisiana Sky. It was pitch dark the next morning when Granny woke me up. "Come on, Tiger, rise and shine." I could have slugged myself for leaving that chicken yard gate open. Now I had to go with Mama and Granny over to the Thompsons' garden and pick purple hull peas to earn money to replace the baby chicks. Granny shook my shoulder. "Come on, Tiger, get up." I swung my feet over the side of the bed and rubbed my eyes. To my surprise, Granny handed me a cup of coffee. "Here, this will get you going." I sat on the edge of my bed holding the cup, smelling the strong hickory and letting the steam wet my face. When I was a little kid, Mom and I sometimes played house. Granny would give us coffee, filling our cups with more milk than coffee and sweetening it with sugar. I love sipping that syrupy drink. But one sip of this morning's coffee made my eyes spring open and the blood rush through my body. It was 100% black, no cream or sugar. I hated the bitter taste. Granny claimed she couldn't get her day started without it, and Mama liked to sip a cup when the ladies came to visit Granny. She reminded me of a little girl playing grown-up, sitting on the couch with a cup and saucer, resting on her lap, nodding back and forth like she understood everything the other ladies said. I sneaked my cup into the kitchen and dumped the coffee into the sink. Granny walked in, wearing overalls and a loose button-up shirt. "Get a move on, gal," she said. She walked over to Mama and Daddy's closed bedroom door. "Corina, I'm not going to tell you one more time to get out of bed." "But, Ma, I'm sleepy," Mama whined. I heard the soft tones of Daddy's voice, but I couldn't make out what he said. Whatever he said must have worked, because Mama came out of the room in a second. Her black hair was mussed up around her face, but she was still beautiful. Granny held out a cup of coffee to Mama. Mama dragged the sugar bowl across the kitchen table, stirred in 4 tablespoons of sugar, and then slurped. Granny went into her bedroom and returned with one of Granddaddy's long-sleeve shirts. She handed it to me. "Here, Tiger, better put this on or you'll burn that there skin of yours to a crisp." After I returned from feeding Rudy and the hens, Granny grabbed 3 sunbonnets from the back porch, and we headed out for the door. I sure would enough die before I ever wore one of those. "When that sun gets to rising," Granny said, "y'all need to put on a sunbonnet." I was going to die. I might as well have been buried in the ground right then. Granny must have read my thoughts, because she added, "And you'll be as freckled as a leopard if you don't." As moon faded into the blue morning sky, we rode with Daddy to the Thompsons. Although Jesse Wade's house stood less than a mile from ours, it remained part of a different world. My great-grandfather built our own little house with its tin roof 50 years before. Daddy constantly worked on the house, but no matter how much repairing he did, there was always something else waiting to be fixed. Siding to paint, loose floorboards to nail, or cracks to fill. The Thompsons' huge brick home resembled houses I'd seen in magazines. The only other house in Sater compared to that was Abby Lynn Anders' home down the road from ours. Mr. Anders owned the other plant nursery in Sater. Most of the local men either worked at one of the nurseries or at the longleaf sawmill. Even Granny had to plant cuttings at the Thompsons' nursery to earn a living after Granddaddy died. As usual, the Anders cows had gotten out of their pasture again and were blocking us down the road. Daddy honked, but they didn't budge. They just stayed settled down in front of us, chewing their cuds. Granny jumped up out of the truck and waved her arms at them. "Get," she said. "Get on out of here." All the cows except Miss Astor slowly moseyed over to the side of the road. That was the reason we called her Miss Astor. She thought she was better than the other cows. "Get on," I said, Granny hollered. But Miss Astor just stared back at Granny with her big brown eyes. Granny placed her hands on her hips and peered over her glasses at Miss Astor. They were having a stare down. I jumped out of the back of the truck to help Granny as the little red-faced calf peeked from behind Miss Astor's rear end. "Well, looky here," Granny said. "Miss Astor is a mama." I can go around them," Daddy said. We got back in the truck and headed over to the Thompsons. When we arrived, Daddy started toward the nursery on the other side of the Thompsons' manicured lawn. Rows and rows of potted azaleas, junipers, and other green plants spread into a tall pine horizon. Milton Lambert and Shorty Calhoun was stacking cans near the hothouse. Mr. Thompson rode up to us on his tractor. He turned the key, and the growling engine stopped. The world seemed so quiet except for the mockingbird calling out. "Morning, folks," he said, removing his hat. The hat rim made a red mark around his bald head. "Morning," we called back. Mr. Thompson looked toward the nursery where Daddy was grabbing a hose. "Tiger, do you realize your daddy's never missed a day on the job since he was 15 years old? He's my hardest worker. He always gives me more than an honest day's work. Wish I had 10 men like him." I felt like the sun had just sent a beam straight down from the sky to light me up. "Miss Jewel," he said, "have I shown you a picture of my Louisiana lady, Camellia?" "Well, I don't believe I've ever heard of a Louisiana lady," said Granny. Mr. Thompson removed a photograph from his pocket. "Well, that's because she's my creation. 8 years in the making. Ain't she purty?" Granny held up the picture close and peered over her glasses. "Woo-wee!" Mr. Thompson grinned, looking proud as a new papa. "Yep, 8 years of fussing over her till she made the prettiest blooms. Heck, I had to court her more than I did Arlette." Granny showed the picture to Mama and me. The flower was full like an open rose. A dark pink crowned the edges of the pale pink petals. Mama leaned in so close her nose touched the picture. "Woo-wee! She sure is pretty." "Yes, sir," I said. Mr. Thompson placed his hat back on his head and rested his elbow on his knee. "Got a man in Dallas interested in my camellias. I'm going to go see him in a couple of weeks. Said my camellias could make a nice little sum of money. Their blooms didn't crumble as easy like so many of the others." Granny handed back the picture to Mr. Thompson. "So are they early or late bloomers?" she asked. Mr. Thompson leaned over. "Early. They start in October and bloom through Christmas." "I declare," Granny said. "I declare," Mama repeated. "Miss Jewel," he said, "you make sure you pick up a mess of peas for your family before you leave, you hear?" "I appreciate that, Woodrow, since my peas didn't make it this year like last." "That darn stink bug." "Oh, you need to spray tobacco on them." "Oh, is that a fact? Why, thank you, Woodrow. I'll try that." Mr. Thompson started up the tractor and hollered, "It's going to be a scorcher today." He rode off toward the nursery, leaving behind tracks in the moist grass. Granny tied Mama's bonnet under her chin. Mama smiled real proud like Granny had placed a crown on her head. "I bet I look like you, Ma, don't I? I bet I look just like you." The corner of Granny's lips curled into a small smile. God help if you do, child. Tiger, better put yours on. So we're going to go and stop right there and pick up the last half of chapter 4 in the next section here. I don't know if any of you can ever connect to your mom or father, maybe your dad, making you wear something that you really didn't want to wear. Totally reminds me of watching my favorite Christmas movie, The Christmas Story, when little Ralphie, Christmas morning, he gets the big pink Easter bunny outfit from his aunt that his mom makes him put on, and he just sulks and has to put that on. And, I'm not sure if ever in your life maybe you got a new something, or a sweater or something that you had to wear and you were so embarrassed to wear it. Quick story from my life. I remember when I was 13 years old and I got a brand new pair of blue socks from my mom and dad for my birthday, and I didn't know that I was going to have a surprise party later that day, and I was told that I had to wear my blue socks, and I was embarrassed. I was like, Mom, I can't wear blue socks. I look stupid. She's like, no, put your blue socks on. So I did. I go out there, and I was expecting to play golf with my family, and I go out to the golf course, and my mom said, let's go upstairs and see if we can maybe have a hot dog or a burger before you go out there and play some golf. So I go up there, I open the door, and there are like 20 of my best friends, and they are all over sitting around in the yard and completely not even paying attention to my blue socks. But I was so worried that I was wearing something that I shouldn't be wearing, and I was embarrassed as all get out there, much like Tiger would be. So do you think she's going to wear that sunbonnet? I truly don't know. We're going to have to find out in the next chapter. So I'm going to go ahead and let go here, and we are saying good night, good afternoon, good evening, whatever you have going here. Moving on to the next part of chapter 4 in the next section, guys.